The airlock hissed open, and Commander Jake Morrison stepped into the chamber with his heart hammering against his ribs. The Velcrin warship hummed around him, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent veins that cast everything in sickly green light. Behind him, the diplomatic shuttle sealed shut. No going back now. "You're insane," Lieutenant Amy Grant's voice crackled through his earpiece. She was monitoring from the shuttle, but she might as well have been a galaxy away. "We don't even know if she'll accept the meeting." Jake didn't respond. He couldn't afford doubt right now. The gift box felt impossibly light in his hands, almost mocking considering what it represented. Humanity's last desperate gamble, wrapped in simple cloth. The inner door spiraled open with a wet, organic sound. 3 Velcrin guards materialized from the shadows, their 6 legs clicking against the floor in perfect synchronization. Each stood 9 feet tall, their chitinous armor gleaming, mandibles twitching, plasma rifles charged with an ominous whine. "The Queen will see you," the center guard rasped in broken English. "Follow, do not deviate." They moved through corridors that seemed alive, breathing, watching. Jake had studied the intelligence reports until his eyes bled, but nothing prepared him for the reality of being inside a Velcrin hive ship. The walls contracted rhythmically. The air tasted like copper and ozone. 200 human colonies had burned in the past year. Earth itself had 3 months before the Velcrin Armada arrived. Every military engagement had ended in catastrophic defeat. Humanity's weapons were toys compared to Velcrin biotech. Diplomacy was the only card left to play, and Jake held it in his sweating hands. The throne room opened before him like a cathedral of nightmares. The Queen sat on a living platform that shifted and pulsed beneath her massive form. She was twice the size of her guards, her carapace etched with scars from 1,000 battles. 4 eyes tracked his approach with predatory focus. Human. Her voice resonated through translation nodes embedded in the walls. "You requested audience. Speak quickly. But your species has minutes, not hours." Jake stepped forward, legs steady despite the terror screaming through every nerve. He raised the box. "I brought you a gift, Your Majesty." The chamber fell silent. Every Velcrin guard went rigid. The Queen's mandibles spread wide in what might have been shock or fury. "A gift?" She leaned forward, her massive head tilting. "Your world burns and you bring gifts?" "Yes." Jake opened the box with trembling fingers. "Because I believe you'll understand what this means." He lifted out the object, and the Queen's 4 eyes locked onto it. Then she froze, completely still. Not a breath, not a twitch. Like someone had paused reality itself. The guards shifted nervously, their rifles raising toward Jake, but the Queen didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at what Jake held in his outstretched hands. Jake's pulse thundered in his ears as the silence stretched. The guards' rifles hummed louder, energy coils spiraling toward critical charge. One wrong move, and he'd be vapor before his neurons could register pain. "Your Majesty?" The lead guard's voice cracked with uncertainty. In all the intelligence briefings, no one had ever mentioned seeing a Velcrin hesitate. They were conquerors, absolute in every action. But the Queen remained motionless, staring at the small wooden carving Jake held. It was a child's toy, crude, simple, a 4-legged creature with a long neck carved from earth oak by hands that had been dead for 3 years. "Where did you get this?" The Queen's voice finally emerged, barely above a whisper. The translation node struggled to convey the emotion beneath her words. Jake forced himself to breathe. "From a colony world called Haven's Ridge. Your forces glassed it 14 months ago. Population 7,000. We found this in the ruins." Impossible. The queen rose from her throne, and Jake had to fight every instinct not to run. She towered over him, her shadow swallowing the light. The scavenger teams reported total annihilation. Nothing survived. Almost nothing, Jake said. His voice stayed level through sheer force of will. We recovered 47 artifacts from the ash. Most were melted, destroyed. This one survived in an underground shelter. A little girl named Katie had been holding it when the bombardment started. The queen's breathing changed. Her mandibles clicked in a rhythm Jake's translator couldn't interpret. "You know what this is," Jake continued, "don't you?" One massive claw reached out slowly, carefully, as if the carving might shatter at a touch. The queen's armored finger traced the rough edges with impossible gentleness. "A Taurek," she whispered, "from the southern plains of Velcros Prime. I carved my first when I was barely past hatching." Her 4 eyes lifted to Jake. "How does a human child on a colony world carve a Taurek?" Jake's earpiece crackled. Amy's voice came through tight with fear. "Jake, her bio readings are spiking. Get out of there!" He ignored her. This was the moment. Everything balanced on what came next. "Because Katie's teacher was a Velcrin," Jake said. "A refugee named Sheth, who escaped your empire 12 years ago. She lived on Haven's Ridge, taught the children. When your ships came, she tried to defend them with a farming laser and died in the first wave." The queen's entire body shuddered. Around the chamber, guards lowered their weapons in confused response to their monarch's distress. "Sheth," the queen breathed. "Sheth the Gentle, my clutch sister. She went silent years ago. I assumed pirates or raiders." Her voice hardened. "You're telling me I killed her?" "Yes," Jake said simply. "And 7,000 others who sheltered her, who learned from her, who carved these because she taught them about your world, your culture, your people." The queen's claws clenched. The carving disappeared in her massive fist, and Jake's heart stopped. Had he pushed too far? Made her angrier instead of reaching her? But when her fist opened again, the carving sat unharmed in her palm. "Why show me this?" The queen's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Why twist the knife? To make me feel guilt before you die?" No. Jake stepped closer, knowing he was gambling his life with every word. "To show you that this war is killing both our species, not just bodies, everything we are, everything we could be." "Humans destroyed the Velcrin scout fleet at Meridian," the queen countered. "Killed 300 of my warriors. After you destroyed 6 colonies without warning," Jake shot back, "we're not innocent. Neither are you. We're both soaked in blood and justifying it with revenge for blood that came before. It's an infinite loop, and it ends with extinction for everyone." The queen sat back on her throne heavily. The living platform groaned under her weight. "What do you want, human Jake Morrison? What is this gift supposed to purchase?" Jake reached into his coat slowly, watching the guards tense. He pulled out a data chip. "This contains coordinates to every human military installation, fleet positions, defense grids, everything. Complete transparency." He held it out. "In exchange, I want you to read Sheth's journals. She kept them hidden. They're on this chip too. Read what she wrote about the children, about the humans, about the life she found after leaving your empire. You're offering me the keys to humanity's annihilation," the queen said slowly. "The journals? I'm offering you a choice," Jake corrected, "between the queen who burns worlds and the hatchling who carved Tarex on southern plains, between what you've become and what Sheth believed you could still be." The queen stared at the chip for a long moment. Then she reached out and took it. The queen inserted the data chip into a neural port behind her head with a wet click. Her eyes flickered as information streamed directly into her consciousness. Jake watched her process humanity's complete military secrets in seconds. Every defense laid bare. If this went wrong, Earth would fall within days instead of months. Your fleet positions are pathetic, the Queen said flatly. 3 cruisers defending your homeworld. I have 60 dreadnoughts within jump range. I know, Jake replied. Your missile batteries are outdated. Your shield generators are inadequate. You're showing me that humanity is already defeated. The Queen's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. Why would this inspire mercy? Keep reading, Jake said quietly. The Queen's eyes shifted, accessing deeper files. Her posture changed subtly. The aggressive lean forward softened. One claw touched the wooden carving again, almost unconsciously. These are Sheth's words, she said. The translation carried something Jake had never heard from a Velkrin before. Sadness, she wrote every day for 11 years. She wrote about you, Jake said, about the sister she left behind, about the empire she couldn't serve anymore because it forgot what it was supposed to protect. The Queen's voice shifted to direct quotation, reading aloud. My sister leads the fleets now. She is brilliant and terrible, and I love her still. But she has become what our mother warned against, a warrior with no memory of peace. I pray she finds her way back before the universe forces her hand. Silence filled the chamber. The guards shifted uncomfortably. This was beyond their programming, beyond their understanding of how a war council should proceed. There's more, the Queen continued reading. The humans are crude but curious, violent but capable of surprising gentleness. Today young Katie asked me why Velkrins have 4 eyes. I told her it was so we could see both friend and enemy at once. She said that sounded lonely. She was right. Jake's earpiece erupted with Amy's frantic voice. Jake, multiple Velkrin ships just dropped out of jump space around your position. 15 dreadnoughts. This is an ambush. Get out now! But Jake couldn't move. The Queen was still reading, her massive form hunched over, as if the words physically weighed her down. The humans celebrate something called birthdays, the Queen read. They mark the passage of years with joy instead of viewing them as steps toward death. Katie gave me a cake today. It was terrible, too sweet and poorly formed, but she made it herself. She said I was part of her family now. I have not wept since I was a hatchling, but I wept then. Your Majesty, the lead guard interrupted carefully. The War Council has arrived. They demand to know why you've boarded a human diplomat. The Queen didn't look up from the data stream. Tell them to wait. They insist on immediate audience. Grand Admiral Thex is particularly agitated. Tell Thex to wait, or I will remove his mandibles personally. The Queen's voice carried absolute authority. The guard backed away quickly. Jake felt sweat running down his spine. 15 dreadnoughts. The entire Velkrin High Command was here. If they decided he was a threat, the Queen's protection might not matter. The throne room doors burst open. A massive Velkrin stormed in, even larger than the Queen, his carapace covered in ceremonial war markings. Grand Admiral Thex, Jake realized, the architect of the colony massacres. What is the meaning of this? Thex bellowed. A human contaminates your throne room while our forces await your command to execute the final strike on Earth? Have you gone mad? The Queen finally looked up. Her 4 eyes blazed with something dangerous. Sheth is dead, she said simply. Thex froze mid-stride.
What? My clutch sister!
The one who vanished. I killed her. Haven's Ridge. The Queen rose slowly. She was there, teaching human children, living in peace, and I burned her to ash without knowing. Sheth was a deserter, Thex said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. A traitor to the Empire? Sheth was right. The queen descended from her throne, each step echoing, and we have become exactly what she fled from. Killers without purpose, warriors without wisdom. We are avenging the massacre at Meridian, which was revenge for our attack on 6 colonies, which was revenge for a border skirmish, which was revenge for something else before that. The queen stopped directly before Thex. When does it end, old friend? When every world is ash. When both species are extinct? Thex's mandibles worked soundlessly. Around them, more Velcrin officers filtered into the chamber, the entire war council assembling. Jake stood alone in the center of increasingly hostile attention. "The human brought you a toy," Thex said dismissively, "and you're ready to abandon the crusade?" "The human brought me truth," the queen corrected, "and a choice. The same choice Sheth made years ago." She held up the wooden carving. "This is a Taric, carved by a human child, taught by my sister. It survived when everything else burned. Perhaps that means something." "It means nothing," Thex growled. "Sentiment is weakness. The humans will exploit any hesitation." Jake's voice cut through the tension. "We're not asking for surrender, either side. We're asking for a chance." Every Velcrin eye turned toward him. The weight of their attention was crushing. "A chance for what, human?" Thex demanded. "To see if Sheth was right," Jake said. "To find out if 2 species can carve something beautiful together instead of just carving each other apart." Grand Admiral Thex lunged forward, his claw stopping inches from Jake's throat. The air between them crackled with killing intent. Every guard raised their weapons, but confusion paralyzed them. Half aimed at Jake, half aimed at Thex. The chain of command had shattered. Beautiful words from a species that slaughtered our science expedition on Kepler Station. Thex snarled. 83 researchers, unarmed, studying microbial life. Your people butchered them and broadcast it as victory." Jake's blood went cold. He'd read the sanitized reports. Official Earth military briefings claimed Kepler Station was a weapons facility, a legitimate target. But the way Thex spoke, the raw pain underneath the fury, suggested something different. "I didn't know," Jake said. "Not an excuse, just truth. Ignorance is complicity." Thex turned to the queen. "This is what mercy buys us. They don't even know what they've done. Their leaders lie. Their soldiers follow. And you want peace with this?" The queen's voice cut cold and sharp. "Show him, your majesty." Thex blinked in confusion. "The human wants truth. Show him what his species did at Kepler." Full, unedited footage. The queen's eyes locked on Jake. "If you survive watching, we'll continue this conversation." Thex's mandibles spread in a vicious smile. "As you command." A neural node in the wall pulsed. Holographic projection filled the air above them. Jake's stomach turned before the images even solidified. Kepler Station materialized in stark detail. Research pods connected by transparent tubes. Velcrin scientists moved between them, manipulating samples, recording data. No weapons, no military presence, just researchers doing their work. Then the human assault team breached the outer hull. What followed lasted 8 minutes. Jake forced himself to watch every second. The screaming, the begging, in broken English. The scientists trying to surrender. The assault team cutting them down anyway. Efficiency and brutality in perfect marriage. One human soldier laughed while executing a Velcrin attempting to shield his colleague with his own body. When it ended, Jake was shaking. Bile burned his throat. "Captain Ryan Holbrook led that team," Thex said quietly. "He received Earth's highest military honor for the mission. Your news feeds called him a hero for destroying a bioweapon facility. They never mentioned that the only weapons we found in the wreckage were the ones your soldiers brought. Jake couldn't speak. Words felt obscene in the face of what he'd witnessed. That is what humanity offers, Thex continued, lies wrapped in righteousness. And you dare speak of carving beautiful things together? We are not the only ones with blood on our hands. A new voice interjected. Amy had left the shuttle. She stood in the throne room entrance, her uniform crisp despite the terror that had to be coursing through her. Show him New Portland. Show him what your bombardment did to the children's hospital. Thex whirled on her. That was collateral damage during a legitimate military strike. Show him anyway, the Queen said softly. Another projection, another nightmare. The Velcrin bombardment had been surgical initially, targeting military installations on New Portland, but plasma fire didn't respect boundaries. When a reactor melted down, the chain reaction spread. The children's hospital sat 3 miles from the nearest military target. It might as well have been next door. Jake watched small bodies pulled from rubble, heard parents screaming names of children who would never answer, saw doctors trying to save kids with equipment that had melted into slag. The Queen's voice was hollow. 417 children died in that hospital. We didn't target it specifically, but we knew the reactor could cascade. We fired anyway because destroying the military base was deemed more important than 417 lives. War demands difficult choices, Thex said, but the conviction had drained from his voice. War demands nothing, the Queen snapped. We choose. We calculate acceptable losses and tell ourselves it's necessary. But those children didn't choose. The scientists at Kepler didn't choose. Shaft didn't choose to die teaching a human child to carve pteryx. Amy stepped forward, her jaw set. Lieutenant Marcus Cole led the assault on Kepler Station. He's currently serving 15 years in a military prison. Every Velcrin turned toward her. When the truth about Kepler leaked, our own people were horrified, Amy continued. There were riots, protests. Captain Holbrook's medals were stripped. The officials who classified it as a weapons facility are facing trial. We're not perfect. We're not innocent. But some of us are trying to be better. Words, Thex muttered. Easy words. The data chip has more than military secrets and journals, Jake said, finding his voice again. Page through the final section. The Queen's eyes flickered as she accessed the files. Her entire body went rigid. These are internal communications, she said slowly. Human military channels, classified at the highest level. Debates in Earth's Security Council, Jake confirmed, about whether to deploy biological weapons against Velcrin hive ships. We have 3 prototypes. Each could kill millions of your people. The vote was 7-4 in favor of deployment. Shocked hisses rippled through the assembled Velcrin officers. The deployment codes are on that chip too, Amy added, along with complete technical specifications and manufacturing details. If you wanted to develop countermeasures, everything you need is right there. Thex stared at them as if they'd grown extra heads. You're giving us weapons to use against yourselves? We're giving you leverage, Jake corrected, and proof that transparency can go both ways. Those weapons won't launch now. The 4 council members who voted against deployment used our evidence to force a permanent ban. It passed yesterday. You could be lying, Thex said, but doubt infected every word. We could be, Jake agreed. Just like you could have edited the Kepler footage. Just like we could claim New Portland was deliberately targeted. We can trade accusations until both species are extinct, or we can start taking insane risks on trust. The Queen was reading rapidly through files, her claws moving in agitated patterns. These council debates are recent, days old. You're sharing intelligence that could shift the entire balance of power. Because the balance of power is killing us all, Amy said. We don't want balance. We want to step off the scale entirely. Impossible, Thex said. Too much blood, too much hate. Sheth didn't think so, the queen said softly. She held up the wooden Tyrek again. She found another way, lived it for 11 years. If she could do it alone, on a colony world, perhaps 2 species can do it together. You're seriously considering this madness, Thex breathed. I'm considering whether I want to be the queen who ended a war or the queen who ended everything. She looked at Jake and Amy. What exactly are you proposing? Jake pulled out a second data chip. His hand was steady now, purpose overriding fear. A joint colony, neutral territory, equal populations, humans and Velkrans, living together, building together. If it works, we expand. If it fails, at least we tried something besides murder. And if it's a trick, Thex demanded, if they're using this to gather intelligence, or plant operatives, then you have our bioweapon specs, Amy said, and complete knowledge of our defenses. Mutually assured destruction goes both ways. The queen took the second chip, stared at it. The entire throne room held its breath. Grand Admiral Thex, the queen said finally, do you trust me with my life, your majesty? Then trust me now when I say this is the right path. She looked at her assembled officers. We have become very good at war. Perhaps it's time to learn if we can be equally good at peace. The joint colony took shape on a moon called Meridian Hope, ironically named for the battle that had escalated 6 months of construction under the watchful eyes of both species' militaries. Every supply ship inspected, every module triple-checked, trust built molecule by molecule. Jake stood in the central plaza as the first civilians arrived. 50 human families, 50 Velkran clutches. The agreement specified complete integration, no separate districts, no segregated facilities, live together or prove it couldn't be done. A human girl, maybe 8 years old, clutched her father's hand as a Velkran hatchling skittered past. The girl screamed. The hatchling retreated in fear. Parents from both species tensed, hands moving toward weapons that weren't there. The colony had strict prohibitions. No firearms, no plasma rifles, only tools. Jake moved to intervene, but Amy grabbed his arm. Wait, she whispered. The human father knelt beside his daughter. Remember what we talked about? They're different, but they're not dangerous. It has too many legs, the girl whimpered. A Velkran adult approached slowly, mandibles carefully neutral. My hatchling meant no harm. He is frightened also. You have too few legs. He worries you might fall. The absurdity of it hung in the air for a moment. Then the human father laughed. Not mockery, genuine amusement at the symmetry of fear. The Velkran's respiratory spiracles fluttered in what their translators identified as shared humor. I'm Danny Hayes, the father said, extending a hand. The Velkran stared at the hand uncertainly. Jake held his breath. They'd trained everyone on basic greetings, but knowledge and practice were different beasts. The Velkran extended one claw carefully, touching Danny's palm with surprising gentleness. I am Kresh of the Western Territories. This is my hatchling Ven. This is my daughter Sophie. The children stared at each other with identical expressions of terrified curiosity. Well, Danny said awkwardly, I guess we're neighbors. Indeed, Kresh replied. Perhaps our young ones could learn together. Shared fear becomes shared courage, yes? It was a start, fragile and uncertain, but real. 3 months later, Jake walked through the colony market, where human merchants sold vegetables next to Velcrin protein synthesizers. A Velcrin teacher named Shira taught human children mathematics using base 6 counting, while a human engineer named Carlos explained combustion engines to fascinated hatchlings. Not everything was smooth. Arguments erupted over food preparation smells. Cultural misunderstandings led to shouting matches. A human teenager punched a Velcrin youth during a dispute over sports rules and got his arm broken in 3 places during the retaliation. Both ended up in medical together, eventually apologizing through translators while nurses from both species repaired the damage, but nobody died. That counted for something. Jake found Amy in the agriculture dome, consulting with a mixed team about crop rotation. A human agronomist and a Velcrin botanist were arguing passionately about soil composition, their disagreement purely scientific. The Security Council wants a progress report, Amy said when she noticed Jake. Specifically, they want to know if this is viable long-term or just a temporary ceasefire. What do you think? Jake asked. Amy gestured around the dome. Human children and Velcrin hatchlings were digging irrigation ditches together, supervised by adults from both species. They were muddy and laughing and completely unself-conscious about the species barrier their parents still navigated carefully. I think the kids are going to save us all, Amy said. They don't have the baggage. Yesterday, I saw Sophie Hayes and Ven playing some kind of tag game they invented together. They've created a hybrid language, part English, part Velcran. Their parents can barely understand them. Jake smiled, but worry gnawed at him. Thex sent a message this morning. There are factions in the Velcrin Empire calling this colony a betrayal, demanding the Queen abandon the experiment and resume the war. Earth has the same voices, Amy said grimly. Senators calling us collaborators, military hardliners saying we've gone soft. Captain Hallbrook escaped prison last week. Intelligence suggests he's gathering supporters. So we're racing against extremists on both sides. We're always racing against something. Amy pulled up a data pad. But look at this. Power consumption in the residential district? Humans and Velcrins are sharing living spaces now. Not all of them, but enough that it's registering as a trend. They're choosing integration. A commotion near the dome entrance interrupted them. Jake's hand instinctively moved to his hip where a weapon used to rest. But it was just Kresh arguing with a human construction foreman about building materials. Your concrete is too rigid, Kresh was saying, his translator conveying frustration. It will crack in temperature fluctuations. Our biocomposite adapts. Your biocomposite smells like rotting fruit, the foreman shot back. My crew won't work with it. Makes them sick. Then your crew has weak constitutions. The foreman's face reddened. Listen, Bug, careful, Kresh interrupted, his voice dropping to something dangerous. I tolerate much for the sake of peace. But I am no bug. Jake moved to intervene, but Danny Hayes appeared from nowhere, stepping between them. Hey, Kresh, didn't you mention your composite could be filtered to reduce the smell? And Frank, he turned to the foreman, didn't you say the South Sector needs flexible materials for the expansion joints? Both parties blinked, their anger derailed by the simple logic. The smell can be reduced, Kresh admitted grudgingly. And yeah, we do need flexibility there, Frank muttered. So maybe we use biocomposite in the South Sector with filters and concrete in the North where temperature is stable? Danny suggested. Best of both? Kresh and Frank looked at each other, then at Danny, then back at each other. Acceptable, they said in unison. After they left, Jake approached Danny. That was well done. Diplomatic, Danny shrugged. I'm a plumber from Ohio, but I've got 2 kids who won't shut up about their Velcran friends. If this colony fails, Sophie loses Ven and half her class. I'm not letting that happen because two stubborn guys can't compromise on building materials. That was it, Jake realized. The real power of Meridian Hope wasn't in the official agreements or the careful diplomacy. It was in parents protecting their children's friendships, in workers solving problems together, in ordinary people deciding that peace was worth the discomfort of change. His earpiece chimed, the Queen's frequency. Commander Morrison, her voice came through. We have a situation. One of my warships detected an unauthorized vessel approaching the colony. Human design, military transponder, but it's not responding to hails. Jake's stomach dropped. Holbrook, that is our assessment. He has enough supporters to crew a frigate. If he attacks the colony, it provides justification for hardliners on both sides to restart the war. How long until he's in weapons range? 40 minutes. I'm dispatching defense ships, but if I fire first, it becomes an act of aggression against a human vessel. Your people will demand retaliation. And if you wait for him to fire first, colonists die. Jake looked around at the dome, at children playing in the mud, at people from two species building something precious and fragile. We can't let him destroy this. No, the Queen agreed. We cannot, which is why I need you to do something impossibly dangerous. Jake already knew what she would ask. You want me to board his ship? Someone he might hesitate to kill. Someone who can reach whatever humanity remains in him. The Queen's voice carried doubt. I'm asking you to bet your life that a war criminal can be reasoned with. Jake thought about Sophie and Ven inventing their own language, about Kresh and Frank arguing about building materials instead of firing weapons, about everything Meridian Hope represented. Get me a shuttle, he said, and pray I'm as good at talking as I think I am. The shuttle screamed toward Holbrook's frigate, with Amy at the controls and Jake in the passenger seat trying not to throw up. 37 minutes until weapons range. 37 minutes to stop a man who'd built his identity on killing Velkrans. He's not responding to any frequency, Amy said through gritted teeth. Jake, he might just shoot us down. Then we die proving the colony matters. Jake's voice was steadier than he felt. But I don't think he will. He wants an audience. Terrorists always do. The frigate loomed ahead. Weapons systems powered but not locked. That had to mean something. A crackling voice filled the shuttle. Commander Morrison, I wondered if they'd send you, the man who sold humanity to the bugs. Captain Holbrook, Jake replied calmly. Permission to come aboard? Laughter, bitter and harsh. You've got guts, I'll give you that. Dock at the port airlock. Come alone. Your pilot stays with the shuttle, or I turn you both to ash. Amy grabbed Jake's arm. This is suicide. Probably. Jake unsealed his harness. But if I don't try, two species go back to war, and everything we've built dies anyway. At least this way there's a chance. I hate that you're right. Amy's eyes were wet. Don't you dare get yourself killed. I'll do my best. The airlock cycled, and Jake stepped into the frigate alone. Holbrook waited in the corridor with 12 armed soldiers, all wearing expressions of zealous certainty, true believers in the righteousness of human supremacy. Strip, Holbrook ordered. Weapons, tech, everything. Jake complied, removing his jacket and equipment belt. Standing in just his undershirt and pants, he spread his arms. Clean. Search him anyway. Rough hands patted him down. Found nothing. Holbrook nodded, satisfied. Walk. Command deck. They moved through the frigate in tense silence. Jake noticed things. Jury-rigged systems. Overtaxed power conduits. This ship was running on hatred and desperation, held together by people who'd abandoned everything for one last strike. The command deck overlooked the moon below. Meridian Hope gleamed like a jewel against the barren surface, lights marking the integrated neighborhoods, the shared facilities, the future both species were building. Beautiful, isn't it? Holbrook said. Makes me sick. Why? Jake asked, simply. Because it's a lie. Holbrook's face twisted. You can't just forget what they did. Kepler's Station, New Portland. Hundreds of battles where they crushed us like insects. And now we're supposed to smile and share apartments with them? Teach our children their language? We also did terrible things, Jake said quietly. In response? In defense? Holbrook slammed his fist on the console. They started this war. Every human death is on their claws, and every Velcrin death is on our hands. Jake stepped closer. It's an infinite loop, Captain. Revenge for revenge for revenge. Where does it end? With humanity victorious or extinct? No middle ground. There's always middle ground. We're standing on it right now. Jake gestured to the moon. 300 souls down there proving you wrong every single day. Holbrook pulled up tactical displays. Targeting solutions locked on Meridian Hope. One command and orbital bombardment would erase it all. I have 4 minutes before Velcrin defense ships arrive, Holbrook said. Enough time to destroy the colony and jump away. Enough time to remind both species that some humans won't surrender. And then what? Jake challenged. You hide in deep space while the war restarts? While millions die because you couldn't let go of hate? Better than living on our knees. Nobody's on their knees down there. Jake's voice rose with passion. They're standing together, building together. My friend Danny Hayes shares a wall with a Velcrin family. His daughter plays with their hatchling. That's not surrender. That's victory over everything that's broken about both our species. It's betrayal of everyone who died fighting them. Jake played his final card. Captain Ryan Cole is down there. Holbrook froze. What? Ryan Cole, the soldier from your Kepler team who went to prison. He was released 2 months ago after a full pardon. He volunteered for the colony. Jake pulled up a photo on a wall screen, somehow still accessible. That's him teaching Velcrin hatchlings about Earth history, teaching them about Kepler, about what he did and why it was wrong. Holbrook stared at the image of his former soldier surrounded by young Velcrins, their attention focused on his words. He's brainwashed, Holbrook whispered. He's healing, Jake corrected. Those hatchlings know what he did. Their parents know, and they listen anyway, because they're choosing to be better than their worst moments, just like he is. I can't. Holbrook's hand hovered over the firing control. I've lost too much. My brother died at Meridian, my wife at New Portland. I have nothing left but this. You have a choice. Jake's voice softened. Between honoring their deaths with more death or honoring their lives by building something they never got to see. Peace. Real peace. Not perfect, not easy, but real. They'd hate what you've done, what that colony represents. Maybe. Or maybe they'd be proud that their deaths finally meant something besides another reason to kill. Jake stepped beside Holbrook, looking out at Meridian Hope. I think about the people we lost every day, but I also think about the people down there who are alive, because we stopped, the children who'll grow up never knowing war. That has to count for something. Holbrook's hand trembled over the controls. I was so sure, so certain this was right. Certainty is easy. It's doubt that takes courage. Jake placed his hand over Holbrook's, gently moving it away from the firing control. Come down to the colony. See what we're building. If you still want to destroy it after that, I won't stop you. You're insane. Completely. But it's a good kind of insane. Holbrook looked at his crew, at the soldiers who'd followed him into exile. Stand down, all of you. We're not firing. Mutters of confusion and anger rippled through the command deck. Sir, we came here for justice, one soldier protested. We came here for revenge, Holbrook corrected. I'm tired of it. Tired of hate. Maybe it's time to try something else. He looked at Jake. But if this is a trick, if they betray us, then you can say you told me so while they execute us both. Jake extended his hand. Deal? Holbrook stared at it for a long moment. Then he grasped it firmly. Deal. 2 hours later, Jake stood in the central plaza again as Holbrook's shuttle landed. The colonists gathered, human and Velcrin together, watching nervously. The Queen had arrived personally, her massive form flanked by guards. Holbrook descended the ramp slowly, walked toward the Queen with every eye tracking his movement. He stopped 3 feet away. Your Majesty, I'm the man who led the massacre at Kepler Station. I've killed more of your people than I can count. I came here to destroy this colony. He took a shaking breath. Instead, I'd like to request asylum and a chance to try being something other than a killer. The plaza was utterly silent. The Queen reached into a pouch and pulled out the wooden tariff, still carried with her everywhere. She held it out to Holbrook. A human child carved this after learning from my sister. She died in a war we both fed with blood and lies. The Queen's voice carried across the plaza. If she could teach peace, perhaps we can learn it. Welcome to Meridian Hope, Captain. Try not to destroy it. Holbrook took the carving with trembling hands. Tears ran down his face. Danny Hayes stepped forward from the crowd, Sophie beside him with Ben the hatchling. We've got a spare room if you need a place to stay. Fair warning, the kids are loud and Cresh's cooking smells weird, but it's home. I don't deserve. None of us deserve this, Danny interrupted. We're just trying to be worth it. Come on. As the crowd dispersed, Jake found Amy watching the sunset. The sky painted orange and purple over the growing colony. Think it'll last? She asked. Jake thought about Holbrook crying over a wooden toy, about Sophie and Ven's invented language, about Kresh and Frank arguing over building materials, about all the small, impossible victories that added up to something miraculous. I think we've got a fighting chance, he said, and sometimes that's all you need. The Queen approached them, her shadow long in the fading light. Commander Morrison, you gave me a gift once, a reminder of what I'd forgotten. I would like to return the favor. She handed him a data pad. On it, construction plans for 10 more joint colonies, 50 more, 100 spreading across both human and Velcrin space. Meridian Hope is not an experiment anymore, the Queen said. It's a blueprint. If 2 species can build 1 colony together, perhaps they can build a future. Jake looked at the plans, at the promise they represented, all because he'd taken a chance, all because a queen had chosen to freeze instead of fight. To the future, then, he said. To the future, the Queen agreed. And on a moon named for Hope, 2 species took their first real steps toward it together.